It's February 6, 2025, and we've got ourselves a double, possibly even a triple whammy of winter storms on the way. Things are picking up out there. Starting today, we've got an ice storm underway. That's right. Ice storm warnings are in effect for Pennsylvania, Maryland, West Virginia, and portions of Virginia marked in purple. We also have winter weather advisories stretching from Boston all the way through New York, Pennsylvania, and down into Delaware. This extends into the Ohio Valley and back into the upper Midwest, even reaching the southern plains. We're dealing with a very big storm that will move across the U.S. over the next 3 days, causing at least moderate impacts, particularly in the ice storm area. I'm concerned about potential power outages in these regions. As for the ice storm, it will impact the mid-Atlantic, northeast, and eastern Ohio Valley. I think many areas will just get a glaze of ice, especially near Detroit and Cleveland. If you're east of the Appalachians toward Philadelphia, this will likely be a brief shot of snow followed by a little bit of ice, nothing too concerning. However, even a glaze of ice can be dangerous, especially if you have to be on the roads. The darker orange area is where we could see really hazardous travel and potential power outages. Be prepared for that. On the winter storm severity index, we also have elevated indices in the High Sierra. We're expecting a ton of snow over the next 3 days in the highest elevations of California, creating extreme impacts on the roads. This extends into the Cascades a little as well. Guys, we'll see heavy icing in the higher elevations of the Central Appalachian Mountains in Pennsylvania, Maryland, West Virginia, and Northern Virginia. Light icing will occur in southern Michigan, northern Indiana, and northern Ohio. There might be some thunder near Cleveland while it's sleeting or freezing raining, so keep an eye out for that. It'll be all snow up in the upper peninsula of Michigan and portions of Ontario. By 4 to 6 a.m. Thursday, I think the heaviest icing will occur around Hagerstown and Cumberland. These areas are where we'll need to watch out for power outages and extremely dangerous road conditions. Even though places like Scranton and Philadelphia won't experience an ice storm for the entire duration, it will start with a heavy burst of snow followed by sleet and freezing rain. This will lead to a very treacherous morning commute on Thursday. By 6 a.m., we'll see heavy snow moving into New York City with continued icing in south central Pennsylvania. The situation will be an absolute mess. We expect sleet in the Baltimore and D.C. areas around this time. Remember, most people will only get a glaze of ice, but I think a half inch of ice or more is possible around State College, Harrisburg, and down toward Cumberland and Hagerstown. These are the areas where I'd be most concerned about the actual ice storm. Make sure your generator is gassed up and be prepared for at least a couple of days without power. By 10 a.m. Thursday, heavy snow will move through New York, but rain will take over in Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Boston. The snow will likely be done by 3 or 4 p.m. This will be a quick inch or two for most people, with possibly a little more in the higher elevations of the Adirondacks and the White Mountains. For the most part, the snow isn't the big concern. It's the ice on the south side of the storm. Speaking of the south side, or the warm part of the storm, we'll also see severe thunderstorms today in Kentucky and Tennessee, possibly into Ohio. There's a marginal risk of severe weather for February 5th, with a 2% probability of seeing a tornado. The risk area includes Bowling Green, Nashville, and Jackson, Tennessee, extending almost up to Louisville. A tornado is very unlikely, but 1 or 2 brief ones wouldn't be surprising, especially near Bowling Green as the storms move north and east. As for the severe storms, here's what the radar could look like this evening around 8 or 9 p.m. Central Time. You'll start to see storms moving into Lexington and Somerset. These storms will be moving quickly and could drop some hail even over areas like Huntington and Pikeville. Expect lightning, thunder, and heavy rain tonight. It's going to be a big rainmaker. But here's what's interesting. Some of the stronger storms don't actually get going until 6 a.m. Thursday morning. Look at this. There's going to be a pretty strong storm or area of energy moving through the Somerset area toward southeastern Kentucky around 6 or 7 a.m. The storms won't be over until probably around noon on February 6th. That's the progression we're looking at. There's a very slight chance of a tornado along with hail and gusty winds. These will be the main concerns. All right, what's next? Once we get storm number 1 out of the way, I want to focus your attention on California, where Thursday into Friday, it's going to snow like crazy in the High Sierra. We'll have a lot of moisture coming up from the Pacific, causing some flooding in the Central Valley. And this will be just another atmospheric river situation that will last at least through Friday. By that point, the storm will move across the Great Basin into the Intermountain West and the Rockies. Heavy snow will be possible in Wyoming and South and North Dakota by 10 p.m. on February 7th. What happens next? It looks like the storm will link up with some moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, leading to another storm on the East Coast. This one looks very similar to the one we're dealing with now, but it seems a bit more powerful from a meteorological standpoint. This one could be a little bit more of a doozy than the current storm. By Saturday, February 8th, it looks like we could see another potential ice storm for south central Pennsylvania down into Virginia and heavy snow in southern Ontario. This could be a decent snowmaker for Michigan as well. It becomes a bit more uncertain the farther out we go, but overall, this looks like a storm we'll need to watch. I don't like to hype things up, but certain models are showing a blizzard. We're not going to focus on those right now, but the averaging model we're looking at, the GFS ensembles, shows a pretty decent hit for heavy snow in New England this Saturday and Sunday. So I'm confident we'll be talking about a snowstorm for the Northeast with this one, not so much an ice storm. The ice aspect will still be there, but the focus will likely be on the snow as we move into the weekend. I'd be watching out for one of the more impactful snowstorms of the year, or even the past couple of years, in places like Boston, New York City, and upstate New York. It's still too early to give precise details, but this is what's on the horizon. The Weather Prediction Center is on the same page. There's a 70% chance of significant winter precipitation from upstate New York all the way down to central Pennsylvania, the New York City metro area, and into New England. This is high confidence in a winter storm 4 days out. If this were a severe weather outlook, think of this as an enhanced risk, essentially a major winter storm expected in the Northeast this weekend. Of course, we'll update you with more information as we get closer and start talking about snow totals. Now, for the third storm in this triple whammy, here it is on day 7 of the WPC probability outlook. We have a 50% probability of a significant winter storm from the mountains of North Carolina all the way up into the mid-Atlantic and New York City metro area, extending into southern New England. This one looks like a classic low-pressure system that rides up the coast, potentially causing a major impactful winter storm for places like Washington, D.C., Richmond, and possibly even Asheville, North Carolina, up toward New York City and the I-95 corridor. This storm has the potential to be what we call a Big Daddy snowstorm, but again, it's 7 days out and things could change. We don't want to speculate too much, but this is a strong signal for something significant on February 11th and 12th. We'll be watching this one closely. I'll be posting daily updates over the next 7 days, and this might end up being the big one of the year. Another thing to keep an eye on is that we're seeing so much cold air trying to return to the southeastern United States. It's fighting against the warm air that's been hanging out in the southeast. Whether it's rain, snow, or whatever, we're likely to see above average precipitation in the southern and southeastern U.S. from February 10th to 14th. This could lead to flooding, especially in the Tennessee Valley and Dixie Alley. And of course, as you move further north, ice and snow could become part of the problem too. We're transitioning into a colder pattern as recent warmth is about to change drastically. While there will be some brief warm-ups for the southeast, as the southeast ridge tries to stick around, we are in for a series of intense storms. There are expected to be up to 5, 6, or even 7 major winter storms across areas of the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, and Great Lakes. These areas are going to be hammered, though not everywhere will be affected by each storm. The Northeast seems to have the highest chance of seeing all these winter systems, but several will impact the entire region. It's going to be a very active period, to say the least. Looking at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook from the National Weather Service for February 11th to 15th, I believe the southeast ridge might be slightly overdone in the model guidance. If it were up to me, I'd bring that yellow area closer to the south and adjust the positioning by about 100 miles on the western and northern ends. That said, the southeast ridge will still be present at times, though cold air is expected to begin encroaching on the warmer air very soon. We recently enjoyed a warm stretch, but now we'll be entering a volatile pattern with rapid temperature changes and lots of activity. Speaking of activity, the precipitation map shows above average precipitation for almost all of the U.S., with exceptions in southern Florida and southwestern Texas, where conditions will be near normal, and the highest above average precipitation will be along the West Coast and in many eastern states from February 11th to 15th. Now let's look at the 8 to 14 day outlook for February 13th to 19th. A major Arctic blast is forecasted for this period. Again, I believe the warm air will be more confined to the southeast, and the cold air will likely push further south than indicated in some of the models. I still expect the southeast ridge to play a role, but it won't be as expansive as shown in some models. In terms of precipitation, while the west is still expected to see above average rainfall, the east will also experience a significant amount of moisture, which means several active systems. Stay updated as this stormy pattern develops. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this video, hit the subscribe button, and stay tuned for my next update. I'll keep you protected before and after the storm.